Hey, you guys, I'm back on mobile. I could not invite Katie from my laptop, so doing it here. This is Denise with Family Canine Training here in Orlando. Let's see if Katie will pop on and I can invite her on here. Requests. And there we go. Replay viewers, thanks for watching. You guys can fast forward. It's easy. If you're on live, hang in there with me while I invite Katie on here. We'll wait till she pops on. The topic today, I'll edit the description later on when I share the video. I'll edit it and I'll put the topics on there just so maybe if you're watching the replay, it's a lot easier. Hey, it's a lot easier for you to navigate it maybe. I'm not sure. Maybe I'll list it in the order that we went if I get good notes. Don't know how long it's going to be. Not sure Katie's time frame, but we'll wait till she pops on. Like I said, the topic today is nervous dogs. Ask us anything you want. Doesn't have to be just about nervous dogs, but that is the highlight. I'm adding you on now. And let's see if you come up on here. Hey.
Hey.
Finally, I had to, not to make it like a big thing, complaining thing, I had to get off the laptop because it didn't have the invite thingy like the phone.
Oh. Well,
And
at
didn't,
least we know now.
I know, right? And earlier I did it from the desktop. It wasn't from the laptop, but that one doesn't have a camera. So like situations.
Huh. Hi, Tina.
Yeah.
Hi, Chris.
Hi. I see Shane on here too. Wepa.
Hi, Cody. That's my nephew. Kimberly.
Hi. How you guys?
Lots of people joining.
Yeah. This is a hot topic, Katie. You and I have been hitting some points lately. So Katie and I were like, hello, why don't we include people in our usual debates and rants and conversations,
Yeah.
whatever it is you want to call them. We learn from each other, we help each other. And Katie, if you don't know that already, I tell you this all the time, you are badass, you are brilliant. I absolutely, love what you do. Katie is beggingforbalance.com, begging for balance and dog training and rehabilitation here on Facebook, and beggingforbalance.com. Follow her, look at her stuff. She has the killer nail cutting videos. Like if you need all that stuff too, she's got it. She's getting a new puppy. I don't know if you guys know, she's getting a new puppy, and putting her on the spot, she's probably gonna put puppy videos up. That would be a page to check out. So we're talking about nervous dogs today. We get a lot of questions about it. So what's the main thing that people are your clients and mine are always asking us about their nervous dogs?
Well, I guess sometimes they want to know if the dog is going to make a complete change. Like if they can come in for training and be completely fixed and be the most confident, off leash, bomb-proof dog. And, you and I both know that they can make progress, but a lot of times, you can't expect them to be the same dog as a super confident one. So even if no matter how much training and rehab stuff we do with them, they are always going to be that same nervous dog underneath a little bit. So that's one huge thing.
They ask us that, and for me, lately, I've had a lot of nervous dogs here. So I remember one in particular that I shared with you. It takes a lot for me to share stuff like that, but she brought a couple of tears to my eyes. I felt, you feel bad. So you tend to, and even with owners, like post training, they tend to feel bad as well, as far as giving them rules and giving them structure. They feel bad for the dog. So they're using, emotion there, right?
Right.
And anyway, carrying on with the training part of it, you're there trying to figure out the dog and how you're going to proceed with that particular dog, which is kind of why I tell people they all progress differently. You take different approaches sometimes with them. You
Right.
take it slow or you take it fast, or and like you mentioned in one of your points that we were going to talk about today is created distance and building up tolerance, and you have really good things on that that you brought up when I was talking to you about Lady in particular, the Rottweiler that I had, about, you know, the creating distance and the different ways that I was approaching her and things that she was fearful of. So we were sharing that back and forth because I think it's very important to share that kind of thing and, you know, to help each other out. What do you what do you think, or what are your like further points that you wanted to touch on about building tolerance and creating distance? I know a lot of distance, even when you're training indoors, is helpful.
Okay. Yeah. So, anything, if you want to make the dog less fearful of something, usually you want to work at a distance at first. So if you have a dog that's afraid of garbage trucks, you're not going to bring them, most likely. I mean, there is flooding, which is like really throwing them into the mix. But
Yeah.
usually you want to work at a distance so the dog is comfortable or at least only lightly stressed. And, work at that distance and get closer and closer. And, you can do things like obedience work, drills at a distance. So then the dog forgets that kind of background noise that they're afraid of is even there. So that's one thing. And where I was talking about building up the tolerance, a really simple, easy thing is I know a lot of dogs at home have trouble with like the vacuum. They're afraid of it.
Yeah.
And a
Yeah.
lot of them will aggress at it because they're scared of it. So one simple thing that, owners can do is teach their dog place command and vacuum at a distance from the dog. And what I always do is I actually face away from the dog as I'm vacuuming at first. So I'm not, heading at the dog like a weapon, vacuuming into them
Right.
at first. I'm going, backing toward the dog that's on place. And I'm getting closer and closer over time. And the better your dog gets at place, the more they'll be able to hold place and you can vacuum right around them. And, they're
Right.
not going to try to run away from it. And they're not going to be allowed to, aggress at it either. So that builds up a tolerance. And that also relates to other things too. It's not always just the vacuum. The dog can learn to default to the obedience command, the place command, or whatever other command you're giving them, if it's heel
Yep.
or whatever, and they will listen to the training over their fear.
Right. So we're sticking that obedience to help us through the rehabilitation portion of it all. And it takes so much time with some of these dogs that it almost looks like the dog's not progressing, not doing better. And sometimes you know, even us, we'll take a step back and like, yeah, we can't walk today. We tried this that day just to see
Yeah.
where you were, or to see, you know, like what'll help. We're not walking today. We're doing
Right.
this today, and maybe build up, you know, build up to that.
Yeah.
So that would also, even if it's not directly, oh, the vacuum, oh, the I don't know, a shadow or
Mm-hmm.
whatever,
Yep.
you're building up through other things, building up that trust, building up that confidence through the obedience in
Right.
order to apply it to the rehab. Because eventually we're gonna, oh, you need to face this vacuum, or you might need to face this shadow, even if it's from like across the street, not like
Mm-hmm.
right there, you know, not right there next to you. Shane says the follow through for dogs fearful of grates, sewer lids, and fire hydrants. Uh, Let me see if there's another piece to the question. I'm reading them as they come along if we get any.
Yeah, I saw Tina
So
asked, what we tell the owners if they want, that super confident dog, but yet the dog
yeah,
in front of us is actually the fearful, shaking kind of, basically we have to be really honest with them, and we have to tell them who their dog is, because a lot of times
Yep.
people don't even know who their dog is underneath it all. They don't know, maybe a lot of times fearful dogs actually show as being reactive. So everybody that they see, or dogs that they see, they're barking, and it's really just because they're scared inside. So it's our
Right.
job as trainers to kind of uncover who their dog is and help them to figure that out and to have realistic expectations for the training.
Absolutely. Um, we're going to get to the reactivity and aggression portion of it, because when these things are not either addressed or prevented, it doesn't always, but it can lead to reactions, which is like the leash aggression, the leash reactivity, what we call reactivity, what some people may not understand, because they have the dog on the leash and it's reacting to whatever the stressor is, whether it's a dog, a person, a car, it could be so many things. And the dog is reacting, the reactivity on that leash, and they almost look aggressive, like they're going to bite somebody's head off, kind
Yeah.
of thing. You've seen it. Some trainers on here have seen it. So that can, all that fearful stuff can lead into that.
Yeah.
And sometimes the dogs are not even showing for the, for a regular owner, they're not showing, or they don't know how to read the signs, but they're not really showing like bigger ones. And then all of a suddenly they're like, oh, it happened all of a sudden, but it's been brewing.
Yeah.
It's brewing and brewing
Yeah.
and brewing,
Definitely.
and then they keep they're continuing to be exposed to the stressor. So
Hmm.
whether it's being pet, like, in any sort of way, or overhead, or just something
Yeah.
very abrupt, and the dog's like, ooh, and
Yeah.
then that something happens, whatever it is that happens, a
Yeah.
freak out, a nip, a growl,
Yeah.
which are, it could be a reaction, but also a warning, like, I don't like that. And the
Yeah.
next time it might be a teeth on, like, whatever.
Yeah. Well, and I wanted to add to that, that it's really important to know that dogs, especially nervous dogs, that the stress is in layers. So if your dog is afraid of, cars and bikes and all those other things, you know, um, all that is building. So it's building from the minute they wake up, they're under a constant state of stress. And then that person, comes in and gives your dog a hug, and your dog could bite them. And it doesn't necessarily mean that your dog is aggressive and wants to, eat people, but every
Right.
dog has kind of a level of pressure that they can take. And at some
Just like us.
point, right, at some point, they're gonna, defend themselves. And it's the same with us. I mean, if you pushed me, I probably might not push you back. But if you punched me in my face, I don't know that I wouldn't, you know, respond. So
Yeah.
it's important to remember that dogs have limits too, and not to, especially not to let children test those limits with the dog to see how much pressure they can put on them, because it can be really, that stuff can be prevented. So,
Very much. Speaking also, like, there's so much in this topic. You bring up children real quick, and again, very common in the household. Um, Children, especially really, really young ages, that don't understand that boundary. They don't understand, or they haven't. They're not able to understand, even if they've been taught, whether they're disabled, mentally, physically, or whatever. They're just, young of age, right?
mhm.
um, a lot of those families tend to have nervous dogs as well. If there's no boundary and structure in those families, those kids have access to the dogs. So no boundary, no structure, most of the time means they're not in a kennel. The dog has nowhere to retreat to and even say, like, I want out of this. Sometimes they'll find a couch, you'll find them underneath a chair, you'll find them underneath a bed, and they're like, oh, this dog's antisocial, we don't know what's wrong with it. And it's just trying to get away from the world. So when I see like anti-crate campaigns and stuff like that, that's really, that saddens me, because we both know, that we want to try to prevent nervous dogs from early on. And our job is to kind of help people prevent them, just prevent them moving forward and from the beginning, whether you've adopted the dog or you raised a dog. Because sometimes they adopted them and they do get them nervous, but we don't help the situation.
Mm-hmm.
So, I see that we see all kinds of things, but with kids, it's fairly common to have extremely nervous or somewhat of a nervous dog if there are no boundaries and no rules both for the child and for the dog. There has to be a little bit of management there. And even if the dog's not going to be prone to it for whatever reason, breed or good temp, it doesn't matter. You want to try to prevent that stuff.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, I think preventing it, like my mom says, preventing is better than curing. So when you are proactive in that way, I think it helps everybody. A lot of people are not in agreement and they believe that the dogs should be free all the time, even though they're confined to the four walls of your home. That is a sort of confinement. A playpen is, confinement. But they don't believe that there should be any boundaries or anything like that. Maybe they've had other dogs, have never had any issues, and going forward, they want to compare or do the same with these dogs. And just like us with humans, we don't rate, all of our kids are not the same. I was the bad one of the family, right? So
I don't believe that.
They might have taken me to court a couple times or whatnot, and that straightened me out. I grew up fine, and my sister didn't need it. She didn't need court. She didn't need I didn't need juvie or anything. I didn't, do it. I'm just saying it's different. So, like, it's different with the dogs too, and we want to trying to cover my pajamas so I don't come out. I'm halfway up. You know me. I'm like, Katie only agreed to this if I comb my hair, and I'm sorry. Somebody had a question, and I think I missed it, and I forgot. Because we got into it. You were bad? Yes, I was. No juvie or anything, no, but just saying. It's different. It's different for each of them. How do we prevent it from early on? Boundaries, like, boundaries, rules, through obedience. What about the dog? If the dog doesn't have any obedience, how do we apply it? How do we apply it somewhat in there? Maybe no free roaming, a crate, right?
Yeah. The, foundation, basically, we call it foundation work. I don't know if you call it that at your place. But basically, it's like structured walking. So the dog is not just, when they're on their walk, they're not pulling you along, basically. They're walking at your side. You're giving them permission to have a few minutes to sniff and go to the bathroom, and then it's right back to the walk. And they're not allowed to be, barking and peeing on everything when they're walking. It's structure. And they wait at the threshold before you go for the walk. These are just like basic rules for dogs that can help any dog, but especially nervous dogs too. It makes them feel comfortable, I think. Structured walking, place command, waiting for food, waiting to go in and out of the crate. They don't just run in there on their own. That's a big thing with nervous dogs, like to run into the crate to hide. And they really should be waiting for permission. They shouldn't just be, running and escaping, because, that just lets them practice that flight type behavior. So the basic foundation seems to help the dogs. It gives everybody a little structure. And where you were talking about kids, what I tell people with children is that when the dog is on place or in the crate, that's like the safe zone. So that's the dog's time to have time to themselves. If the kids want to pet the dog, I tell the owners, release the dog from place, let the kids pet the dog, and then put them back on place. Because it's better to have that than kids climbing all over, hugging, and pressuring the dog. Because they do feel...
Yeah,
I think they do feel pressured if they're on place and kids are really hugging them and loving all over them. It's hard for dogs.
Yeah. Are you okay with family members going in for a pet while they're on place, and just like no with strangers that maybe come in the house? But are you okay with family members petting them on place?
You know, if they're adults, I really think that it's important that kids also have a little bit of rules. So to me, that's not that big of a thing to tell kids don't pet the dog while it's on place and don't
Yeah.
be messing with the dog while it's crated either. Because kids can tease a dog unknowingly, you know, like if the dog is crated and they go over and they're like, come on, play with me or whatever. I like to keep those as kind of safe zones for the dog. So,
Yeah, even for both the kids and adults safe zone, right?
well, you know, kids, when you have a family with kids, you have to remember kids listen more to
Yeah.
what they see than what you tell
Right.
them. So you're leading by
Right.
example. And it's the same with dogs. I believe that they do what they see happening. So as the
Yep.
parents, if you're going over and petting the dog, then why would the child think that it was any different for them? So if you want to make that
Right.
your rule in your house, then make it a rule and stick to it. So everybody follows the same rule. But, you know, if it's a house with just adults, then it could be, you know, you could be a little more lenient on that. But
Yeah, and that's what we're trying to convey to the dog. When you're with me, nothing bad happens. And when we're talking about specifically nervous dogs, when any little stressor comes along, and they may have been fine with it like all month, all last like 5 months, and then all of a suddenly like I have an issue with that stressor, the broom. I don't know. Sometimes they random things are like, ooh, and they're like, okay, you
mhm.
know, whatever it is. I forgot the point. What was it?
I got
I do this
lost
thing all
too.
the
I just read
time.
Shane's comment. Shane, thank you for
I,
watching.
I was doing, and then I'm like, oh.
I'm glad you were on tonight.
Um, what was the thing about the place? Oh, that's what we're trying to convey to dogs. Like when you're with me, nothing bad happens. So nobody pets you, nobody like whatever. And this question came up on the pack walk. It came up in another phone call. It comes up time and time and time again. And then when people have issues, I repeat the same thing over again, and I'm really uh pushy about it because I know like what can happen. So everybody's like, how do you do it? How do you stop people from petting my dog if this is what I'm supposed to do, and why? Like, why can't I let people pet my nervous dog? And I feel bad telling people no, and I'm like, talk to your dog. No petting people.
Mm.
It works. It works. I found a less intrusive way of doing it, because sometimes I like find myself saying it fast, and then like with my serious face, it comes off like I'm being mean or something, but I'm not. When I want to protect my client dog, I'm protecting this nervous dog, because when it's with me, nothing bad happens.
Yeah.
And most of the time they're nervous about getting pet, and most people go head forward. They don't know that actually introducing a hand to a dog, it's actually pretty rude. It's not only rude, but it is pressure as well.
Yeah.
So even though the puppies may be okay with it, this is pressure. And
Mhm.
they're like, you do that to my dog in public, who is not a nervous dog, she's gonna look at you, because that's what she was trained to do. I lost the dog because somebody, took her. The dog went with her. I don't want my dog to go with anybody. So I
Mhm.
want her to avoid people, right?
Yeah.
So how do you tell people no? That's one of the ways I do it. I talk to the dog and be like, no, Lucy, don't pet people. And I found
Yeah.
this less intrusive, and I don't make eye contact with the people, so I don't look like all mean. But sometimes you're caught in the last second, and you're like, don't pet my dog, and it's like,
Yeah.
I mean,
See,
a
I
vest
don't have a
sometimes doesn't
problem
work.
being kind of I will be downright nasty if I have to. Not like nasty, but I'm
Thank
just going to
you.
say if they ask me to pet the dog, I say, no, we're training.
Okay.
Or no, he's in training or she's in training. And, you know, sometimes they don't listen too. Like,
No, they
and
don't. They don't care.
so something interesting that I learned recently from another trainer's video that I watched was that
Yeah.
when you're advocating for a dog who's not comfortable with people, um, dogs read body language more than they listen to verbal cues. So you should actually use your body to stop the people. So if someone's coming up and they're like, oh, can I pet your dog? And they're moving in, step in front,
Mm-hmm.
use your hand and say, no, he's training, whatever. It doesn't have to be, you're not being like confrontational with the person, because you need to have a good energy too. You need to just say,
Yeah.
no, please don't pet her. She's very nervous. You don't even have to explain.
It
Sometimes
happens so quick sometimes.
the explaining gets, they'll ask a lot of questions and then try
Mm,
even harder to pet your dog.
I know.
It's also really common for people, I find clients, it's almost like it's our culture that everybody pets dogs all the time. And, people want their dog to be friendly with other humans and stuff. And I understand that. And for me, the way I look at it is like when a puppy is really small, I want lots of people to pet the puppy when it's really small, so that the dog makes an association with humans, that they're good, they're fun, there's nothing to be afraid of. But then, after that, I want to be able to take the dog out in public and the dog not to get all excited when it sees people, because that's what ends up happening when you let everybody pet the dog. They end up just being so excited. If they're friendly dogs and they're comfortable with it,
Yeah.
they end up just being like, out of their tree. They break their commands, and then we have to correct them. They're not like, so I want them to be able to go out in public and have it kind of be a non-issue. And I don't have a problem with people petting dogs, but have your friends do it. Have people who you can instruct on how to pet the dog properly, that they're actually going to do it. Not just a stranger who you walk into who's not going to do, what you're asking. So even the nervous dogs, it's almost like you want a dog to be seeking affection, not just that the affection is just put on them. It's like,
Yeah.
when you meet a stranger, do you hug them right away? Most of the time,
Mm-mm.
not really. So I
Yeah.
kind of feel the same about dogs, and that, they probably don't want to be handled by every person they see out in public, every stranger. So
Yeah. Even if they move forward, sometimes I've seen a lot of dogs go in and out of zones. So if they move, let's say that particular person, they're like, oh yeah, okay, I'll take the pen. They're like, oh no, that person may or most likely, and like 95, 99% of the time, they don't know that that dog is all of a suddenly changed his mind and then starting to retreat and they still go in.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's
If they
really
can't read
important.
dogs,
Yeah.
yes, yeah,
Oh man. So bites start to happen, reactivity starts to happen. So the meeting on leash is kind of the same thing as that, except without the human, with the dog. There's tension there, and even if you do it on a loose leash, like some blogs advise or whatever, you see it on there. Oh, do it on a loose leash and it'll be fine. What if they start playing to get tangled and all of a sudden there's tension? Boom.
right, yeah,
So there's it's too much
yeah,
tension. There hasn't been like a proper introduction. So now we're heading into like the dog realm, not, but it applies to both dogs and humans. Like it's like not even going on a date and starting to kiss first. So like how do they go on a date? You take them for a walk together, possibly, and that,
yeah,
but it's still
right,
that's not where the focus should be first. It takes a long time to earn trust, especially when you've had a previous relationship. Hence, the owners, when they've had a previous relationship, that dog's like, you got to prove it to me.
mm-hmm.
And some of them I see people get confident after like a board and train, for example, or they're doing their own training at home. Things are going well, and they start doing risky things. This takes time, and there's no like set amount of time, in my opinion. And the answer may be never. Well, when can my dog do this or get pet or like go to it, I mean, like that's those are hot waters. Those are hot waters. It takes time, especially when you've had a previous relationship. I tell people all the time the board and train process goes a little bit different I mean,
Yeah.
at first they're scared. We're new place, new everything. Dogs freak out. All of a sudden, they're good. I'm kind of hungry. Then I'm like, nah, I've had enough. I
Yeah.
think I can survive with this. I'm done with you.
Yeah.
Bye. You
Yeah.
get put away. I won't work with you until you're ready.
Well,
Like,
that's another
so with
important point
them,
is that the nervous dogs take longer. The training of nervous dogs takes longer than most other dogs.
yeah,
I think
totally.
all
So
trainers would
different.
agree with that, that it just takes longer.
Thank you. It's each one of them is a puzzle. Each one of them is different. Each one of them, teaches you something about yourself, and like the magic happens at home too. So if the clients really follow the plan, when you see that dog again, they shine. They
Yeah.
shine so
Yeah.
good. They shine. Like the last pack walk. Well, not the last one. The one before. I don't know. I can't. The one where one of my dogs was there. That owner. I can't take the credit for that. Like I know how the dog went home, and boy, she's been doing the work. That dog didn't have any like freakouts of anything. She leaded the whole pack walk with all that pressure in the back, pressure in the front, pressure on the sides, and the dog's like, "Meow,"
Hmm.
like nothing ever happened. This is a dog that you would put in brand new furniture inside the house and she would lose it. This is a dog that made me cry on one of the walks because I'm like, oh gosh, she's gonna back out of one of my collars. She is losing it because of whatever it is that she saw. I don't know what she saw. It was at night, and that tends to be sketch sometimes. We
Yeah.
talked about that, and then like, okay, I'm gonna walk her during the day,
Yeah.
and like we'll leave the night stuff like short and sweet. I went back, make sure I put, an extra collar, an extra leash. I mean, put something different so she doesn't feel like she's in attack mode. Try this, try that,
Yeah.
and you try all these things, and look, she went to a brand new house. They moved to a brand new house, and like is totally doing good. So
Yeah.
if the owners are just people training their own dogs, if they move forward and they take it slow and keep it consistent, even if they're doing well, keep it, like keep doing it, keep doing
Yeah.
it, keep layering. They're actually layering a relationship.
Yeah.
They're remending that. They have no idea like how much that matters. So like the Malinois with the reactivity, she literally hands me the leash, he heals. I hand the leash back, he pushes forward. No, it's relationship stuff.
Hmm.
So um we hit bite prevention a lot, like with kids, right? Because mainly when you're preventing this stuff and like you're dealing with that end of it, it leads to you preventing a bite, you preventing a dog, from being like aggressive, or like this level of
Yeah.
aggressive if things get out of hand.
Yeah. Well,
How do you feel
it's
about
also
like,
important,
huh?
for people to learn to read dogs and signs that they're not comfortable. So that's maybe you could talk about that, like some signs that the dog is highly uncomfortable. That maybe
Eyes like
owners,
this,
yeah,
any type of like body like language like this. I know I look freaky doing it, but that's exactly what I do for my clients. Like hunching over, even happy go lucky ones all the time. They're like somebody's petting them and they're like
yeah,
they're not necessarily they're not necessarily sketch. I use the word sketch. They're not necessarily sketch about it, but they're like, what's going on? Like mine, she'll probably like put her head like this and kind of like, I don't get pet in public.
yeah,
Or hunching, I see a lot. Like I said, the eyes, what else? They'll move away, they'll hide,
yeah.
hide
Turn
behind
their
something,
head away,
retreat.
like they'll turn their head, like
A
trying to
lot of lip
avoid it.
licking. They close their mouth, they lip lick, and they're like,
Yeah,
and then they start stress panting, and then they
yeah,
lip lick again,
yeah.
and you're like, holy crap, that's yeah,
Freezing,
that's a,
like when the dog is kind of moving and then all of a sudden
yeah,
they are very stiff, just things like that. It's important for owners to know that, because when you go to pet a dog, some of it, it makes us feel comfortable when we pet dogs. It's nice for us, but I think
yeah,
most owners want their dog to enjoy it too. They don't want it to be
yeah,
like a one-sided thing that it's for their benefit. They want the dog to enjoy it. So look for those signs. And if you see your dog, maybe they don't like to be patted on the top of their head. Most dogs do not. Watch your dog and see. You might
Yeah.
find that the way that you pet a dog, you know, in certain places they like it, and in certain other places they don't. So,
Absolutely.
so be aware of your dog. Really start watching them and watching for signs of, you know, whether they like you petting them or not.
Yeah. And then accepting them. So if, like you say, sometimes you just can't change them. So they are who they are. They can improve. Some of them will like eradicate a whole bunch of stuff, right? But accepting them who they are, sometimes you just can't change them. It's gone either for too long, but I've seen young ones who outbeat the older ones
Mhm.
easy, and then vice versa. It just all depends. So sometimes they will be forever nervous or forever sketch about something, whether it's a breed thing like a shepherd or something, or or just because that's who they are, right?
Yeah. I tell people sometimes it's like people, you know, like some kids are shy and you
Yeah.
can teach them to be more outgoing, but they're not going to overall, they're not going to be the same kid as like, you know, somebody who's going to go on a big TV show for, you know, most outgoing performer, you know, like it's just
Right.
like accept that there are different personalities within dogs, and you know what you have and accept them, but help them to achieve the best that they can for their own, you know, kind of personality or dogality or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
um,
It takes it's work, and sometimes it's harder for that owner because they're very emotionally vested. It's their emotion, sometimes their story. Like if they adopted them and the dog has a story, and then they're like, "Oh, I feel bad." They don't move the dog forward. Oh, if I no, we'll just forget, and then it ends up spiraling, just like what we do to ourselves and the inside
right.
also, and
Yeah.
our relationships and on the inside, and it spirals and it spirals and it spirals and downhill. It like goes
Yeah.
big time and quickly. Um,
That
like
story.
it,
Go ahead. I'm
huh?
sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, that's okay. This thing lags.
No, keep talking.
Um, oh, I'm forgetful. So like in 2 seconds, I forgot
Now I interrupted when you forgot what you were going to say.
That's all right. It happens. We,
No, I'm
we we do that all
forgetting
the time.
what I was going to
It
say.
wouldn't be real because like we do that all the time. And you're like, "Shut up, Denise. Can I get a word in?" I'm like, "Okay." It wouldn't be like what we do. That's what we're supposed. That's what the whole purpose of
Right.
this is for, so they can
Right.
really see.
Yes.
And
Real
sometimes
world
it's me like,
conversation. Yeah.
yeah,
Um,
oh yeah,
what you said about the story, a lot of times people think that if they get a rescue dog, that the dog has been abused because it's
yeah,
afraid of people or dogs or situations. You know, it's afraid of. I have a rescue dog. Not that it matters anymore, but when I got her, she was afraid of plastic bag flying across the road, like just, you know, in the wind,
Oh, I
flying
didn't know.
across the
Who?
road.
Which dog? I didn't know that.
Lana,
Which dog?
Lana.
Oh, really?
Oh, she has a lot of sketchy, you know. She was afraid of,
But I
like,
didn't know the plastic bag one.
you know, when people put their Christmas trees out by the trash, she was afraid of
Yeah.
those. And she was
Oh,
afraid of
wow.
the trash cans. But, you know,
Aw.
that shows where a story can sometimes go wrong. So I could make up a story that she was suffocated with a plastic bag, beaten with trash cans, and somebody threw her outside on Christmas, and that's why she doesn't like the Christmas trees. But the reality is usually that the dog is just under socialized. Like they weren't exposed to those things. They lived in some kind of environment where they didn't see those things as young
Yeah.
puppies. And so it's just, you know, and on top of that, she has a nervous type of personality. Like she's the more fearful dog. So it's just who she is.
Yeah.
She's not afraid of those things now because we work through that. And she has, structured heel. So, but it's just something to keep in mind with the stories. A lot of times people think their dog has been, in dog fighting, but that's not necessarily true either. It's a lot of times that they just haven't had the socialization. So.
Yeah. Or the item, I find too, the item or the trigger, whatever. They say, oh, they have a trigger because this happened. And then all of a sudden, that dog goes around that trigger and nothing happens. Right. So it could be a whole bunch of things like, the change of person, the change of environment. It could be like anything, but the trigger that was supposed to trigger never happened.
Yeah.
That, that too. And you said something about exposure. Exposing dogs early on, and I had a conversation with one of my clients today that or the other day, one of the for the summer dogs. No, I don't know who it is. Anyway, she said, oh, my not to take the dog places. I was told not to take the dog places because they don't have their vaccines and stuff yet, and I gave her suggestions on what she can do. And I think it's one of, like, in my other nervous lives or puppy videos, I don't know, because there's so much information that like later on after this we'll be like, oh, we're gonna talk about that, because there's so much to this pizza pie right here.
Yeah.
And so exposure, you can do plenty of exposure without the dog needing vaccines if you're going like the preventative way from like raising and stuff. You can play videos, you can actually take the dog with you, socialize it with a vaccinated, very well behaved dog, a very controlled like environment where they're not eating poop out of the grass or whatever.
Carry the puppy, like if you have a young puppy, carry them.
Yeah.
And
take them in the car, play the sound. Yeah. Oh, you can do a whole bunch of stuff. I take the puppies, maybe you don't, but I take the puppies to the store, and I'll carry them in a basket, or I won't necessarily let those people touch them unless I know them or they've got some degree of like vaccines in them or whatnot. Yeah. But there's so many things that you can do with that, because they're already the prime moment. If that breeder didn't do anything, it's already like gone, and you know that because you've been studying that to get your puppy this week, and you're gonna be putting up some juicy videos for us to look at. But if they miss the moment and then you get the dog at 8 weeks, 7 weeks, or whatever it is that you got the dog in, and you miss the moment, there starts the foundation already cracked. Right. The foundation that we're talking about, not just like the obedience foundation. We're talking about like the whole foundation, the emotional foundation, the the exposure, all that is part of that foundation and upbringing them, don't you think?
Right. Yeah.
And you have plans for your puppy too, so I know you've got a list.
It's not like that critical socialization period. It's not like that's the only socialization that counts. It obviously counts that too, but that's very important. And so if you're getting a young puppy, you want to make sure that you expose them to different things, sights, sounds, people, healthy vaccinated dogs in a controlled environment, not taking them to a dog park, common sense things, because behavior also matters. Yes, we want to be very careful not to get any illnesses, but the behavior matters for the rest of the dog's life. So it's that's a whole nother topic. But
absolutely. And I tell everybody, short and sweet. I've got one of those live videos that happened some time ago. Short and sweet. They overdo it and it's overkill. They need a rest from it. So short and sweet. Everything you do, if you're not sure, even just do it short and sweet. A trip to the store, 5-10 minutes. A trip in the car, around the block, expose them to the radio, expose them to that wind coming in through the window. back home you go, reward the dog, or reward the
Yeah.
dog in the whatever, however it is that you want to do it. Short and sweet, and it's super duper makes it fun, less
Mhm.
stressful for you, less stressful for the puppy. So I'm excited to see. Somebody asked you what kind of puppy. Did you
Oh,
reveal all that already, or
it's a
what?
German short-haired pointer lab mix that we'll be getting. So
I wish it was going. I wish it was going. I can't wait. I love puppies. I love the puppies. Good luck with the puppy, Katie, says Kelly. All the plans go out the window sometimes and they throw you for a loop, but it's fun.
yep,
Yep.
yeah, yeah.
I
We
always get
haven't
the
had a
criers.
puppy in 11 years. 11 years ago, we had two puppies at the same time, not litter
Yeah.
mates, but we got two puppies. We got our bulldog and our little toy fox terrier at the same day actually, and we raised them together. So it's been
You're talking about
11
Meaty,
years.
right?
Meaty, yep.
You're talking about Meaty?
Yeah, Meaty and Mac. So
Yeah.
so this will be a new adventure. I know a lot more about dogs and dog training now than I did then.
Yeah.
So we'll see how it goes.
Do you I do more of like the exposing stuff and just living versus like commands and stuff. I'll do it for, just to make them work for food and stuff, but I don't like I've never done like commands, just
Yeah,
fun being frolicking, a lot of like the leash dragging stuff, the crate stuff, yeah.
yeah,
And
yeah.
that's it
Last
until
time
they're
we
like,
had puppies, I didn't do all the obedience stuff.
yeah.
Definitely, that wasn't on my radar then.
They learn
Um,
it by being every day. It's
yeah,
kind of like just a lifestyle thing
yeah,
that you integrate, and they learn it,
yeah,
they learn it like that. Once you want to do like full-fledged
yeah,
obedience, you can stick that later on, but that stuff that you mentioned is so important. It's so
definitely.
important to just get cracking on that.
Yeah.
Couple times a week.
Housebreaking,
Yeah.
housebreaking
Yeah,
from
with
day
that with
one.
yeah. Oh yeah. With that alone, you're gonna get exposure. The door sliding, the sounds.
Yeah,
Like it's right there. It's right there. They they have to start it. It has to be done.
yeah.
So fun. Can't wait for pics, says Paige. Me neither. I get first dip. I was trying to convince her to do like a either video, but breeder restrictions or whatever. Give us something. Give us something. I
I'll try to get
mean,
you a
you're gonna do
picture
videos
or
after,
something.
but yeah,
Maybe a video.
it'll be nice to see how you pick the dog, or like
I'll
you
tell you all
know
about
just
it.
yeah. So yeah, I think we hit everything that we
Yeah.
wanted to.
Does anybody have any
No, we
more
didn't get.
any questions from
I
anyone?
don't see any. I was looking at this thing, but I'm having to squint. I think when I go in May, I'm not gonna get good news. Let's see. Answer is nope. I don't know what was that, Chris. I missed that one. Like this thing is delayed with the two devices. Is delayed, but I didn't see any more questions except for Tina, and I think we got it.
Does
How do you
anybody have
respond
a
to clients like
comment
that?
about it? Any comments about nervous dogs or anything that they would add?
Well, Tina just said, how do you respond to clients like that? But I think we answered it, right?
Yeah.
Education, education,
Yeah, you have to
education, and more
set the
education.
expectations and really talk to them about, first of all, what do
Yeah,
they want with, the
yeah.
training for their dog, and then also just let them
German
know.
Shepherd,
Yeah,
German short hair pointer. Working lines? I don't think
yeah,
so.
no,
I forget. I don't know.
I don't think so.
Kelly was
Um,
asking something.
so
But yeah, um, big time management, and those dogs need even more structure than anybody else because giving them that something to do, that's something that they already know to focus on through that obedience in the home environment, and not feeling bad, not letting that get to your heart, because that is even for that is so hard sometimes. We're like, no, we've like you're
yeah,
okay. I know you don't like this, but we kind of have like we have to try. We have to get you move you forward. It's hard. Imagine if it's hard for us. I could just imagine the owner. I can just
And
imagine. Your heart's all in it.
it's our human instinct to want to be comforting to a nervous dog, because that's what we would
Yeah,
do
you have a
for
question.
like our babies or children. Um, it is not a
Bruno.
direct sibling, no, but it's the same breeder. So yes, I loved
Hi,
Boomer
Heather.
and Buddy, and that's why we're getting a German short-haired lab mix. So
That's going to be so much fun. Yes, lots of confidence building.
confidence
Lots of
building.
confidence building.
Yeah.
Um, Man, I wrote a lot of things down because I wanted to go back in the replay and edit it just to kind of I don't know how I'm gonna do that, but I would wanted to put the points that we hit both for reference because I think when you search certain things, the live will come up, and later on when you reference it to somebody, it's easier. So like for example, the other live with the I wouldn't know where it is unless I would have put like keywords or something like that.
Hmm.
Like if it was about uh, puppy exposure or whatever, and I would have written something like that in the description. I think you could go in the search bar and actually look for it, just like you do in any group. I
Mm-hmm.
think you'd be able to find it on the page. So if somebody goes on your page and they're like live nervous dog, one of these will pop up. Like if you do multiple or whatever,
Huh.
then I wanted to write a whole bunch of thingies on it so it's easier for me to find if I wanted to send it to somebody or somebody wanted to look for it and I wanted to reference back or I don't know, whatever. I wish that could do like time slots. So like uh from from 0 to whatever we talked about this from like but it went it goes all over the place because that's what we're talking about, dogs that are all over the place. So this thing is like information after like information
Lots
after
of
notes
information.
after yeah, but this is very complex. But the most important thing, like getting people to understand and to like really really embrace the fact that it's not military, it's not being mean, it's you're actually helping that dog. Like how terrible is that you can't even like go for coffee, your dog knows obedience, but you can't even go for coffee or take your dog someplace because they're freaking out over somebody that wears a red hat or somebody that or you can't go places with them or
Yeah.
things that you want to do. Not everybody has those goals, obviously. They don't care. But it's sad if you get a dog, whether adopted or whatnot, you can't do the stuff that you want to do. Everybody has different goals.
Yeah.
So we hit those, but main thing is prevention because nobody wants to see that. Nobody wants to have a dog or a child like that, for
Yeah.
that matter. We just, we want the best for our families, and that includes our pets. Our pets are our family. So,
And sometimes,
this was very helpful.
sometimes the structure, like just doing the foundation, can make such a difference for the dog. I trained a dog last year.
Totally.
It was a rescue
Yeah.
dog that came into their home. Their home had absolutely no structure. The dog was struggling hardcore, fearful, hiding under the bed, refusing to walk in the middle of the walks, um, just really in panic mode, basically.
Yeah.
And just teaching him the foundation stuff and sending him home, they said it's like a complete turnaround, like a completely different dog. So a lot
That
can,
makes me so
you
happy.
can make a lot of difference with just a little bit.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't have to be, a crazy amount of stuff for these dogs. Sometimes just that leadership on the owner's part and less babying and comforting, because that's what we instinctively want to do for these dogs. But what they actually
Yeah.
need is the direction of what they should do. And,
Yeah.
I call it like organization for dogs. The foundation
Yeah.
work is
That's
like
cool.
organize the dogs, organize their life. You do this, this, and this. That's what dogs, they thrive in that. So those
Totally.
those fearful, nervous ones thrive even more because they're just so, they're in chaos and they're so afraid that just that little bit of direction makes them feel relaxed. So,
Totally. How do you, this question, like, how do you get a nervous dog, fearful dog, and it did so much better, and like you're using a shock collar. I'm like, goes to show, it's not about the tool. Like you can tell me you're like ABC plumber, and you've got like ABC snake, and that doesn't mean you're gonna like, unclog my thing, which I'm using because I actually have a problem. But anyway, it's it's just like it's the whole program. So when the
it's probably the
when they
dog hair.
do,
It's probably all the dog hair in the drains.
yeah, this is in my bathroom. Um, yeah, we're not gonna get into that. I shed, but anyway, they 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 even if they're applying their own program at home and they're trying to get this done. Thanks for coming in, Paige. It's a lot of stuff we're like debating in here. And when they're doing this stuff at home, they see a change. They see a change. It's not about the tools. It's about how you like proceed with that dog in whatever program it is, that you're doing. Because even if they're like, well, I can't do any longer, but like you get what you get in this amount of time. Truly and honestly, they should just live with them, work with them, and see what you get. And like if you're doing good, don't like push them, but don't push certain things on them, like what we
Yeah.
talked about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
It's it's uh it's the real deal. When you see them thrive, like you said, when at first you're like, how am I going to do this? And then it just starts happening because the progress sometimes is so slow, and then I see people getting frustrated. There's not a lot of dog trainers on this page or anything, but clients, like I see people getting frustrated, or people who are trying to do it on their own. They're getting totally frustrated. Even when they see videos, it's like, I don't see any progress. They like believe in their mind that their dog is never going to move forward. Some because expectations are put in there. Like your dog may not move forward like the sister dog or the brother dog or like the dog you saw 3 weeks ago. That this is your dog, ABC, right? And it's
Mm-hmm.
not gonna move like DEF. Does that come? If that makes
Mm-hmm.
sense. But they're already have that worry and that past stuff still lingering there, and they're like, oh, the progress is this, is that, but they don't keep moving forward. They quit.
Yeah.
That's what happens a lot. So, um, change, um, change happens, and it happens with the program, not because of the tool. The tool is just the communication, that we're using the whole time, and it's so much they don't understand, the distance the non-invasiveness of like some of the tools that we use, even just a long line or a long slip. You notice when you put them on a nervous dog, sometimes they will poop and pee everywhere, if you take them to a new place. But sometimes, like in the property, just by you giving them space, not even facing them on a really long line, they're like, oh, okay, she's way over there. I think I'm gonna go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
Just, I find them going to the bathroom much quicker when I create that space, even when like they're off leash or something like that. They're a little
Yeah.
bit more, more reliable in the sense of, and the yard, the closed in,
Yeah.
safe, safety of the property. It's space is, and we create that with tools,
Yeah.
even with the remote. Sometimes when we go on remote collar, we talk about this all the time. It's like you're not using any kind of physical pressure at all. Like your body is not close, your hands are nowhere close to them, and it's so much more clear. Oh, okay, that's that boundary, the place cut boundary. But they feel so much better with you just being over there,
Mm-hmm.
not because they don't trust you. Well, they don't trust anyone, or they're uncomfortable with certain things, and those tools help create some distance
Yeah.
with some clarity. And it's so cool that we get to use something like that, and it actually moves these kind of dogs forward instead of
Mm-hmm.
making them worse. Because like everybody's like, I'm using a shot collar, blah blah blah, making dogs worse. Then why is it not, showing like that in the results that that you've done, that I've done, that multiple people do. It's the whole thing. It's the whole shebang.
Yeah.
Did you have a good time? Thanks for
Yes, this was fun. Glad we did it.
it didn't take pulling your arm, which is pretty cool.
No, it was good.
You had a good time?
I'm not the biggest fan of live videos, but this is
Who
good.
is?
I don't like doing it by myself. It's much better with someone else. Like, it just seems
Isn't it?
more natural. So,
Right. Sometimes I get people asking questions, and sometimes I'm just looking at myself, and you know, I don't like myself that much, enough to talk to myself all day.
yeah.
So, but this was totally doable because one, it's something that once in a while we do as it is, and this time we just get other people to join in, and maybe
Yeah.
that helps somebody. If it
It's a
helps
good
one
idea.
person, that's like totally great. It
Interview
was
different
totally cool.
trainers and chat
Yeah.
about topics. It's a good idea.
Yeah. This was totally cool. Hopefully everybody enjoys it. You guys on the replay enjoy it too. That's Katie, beggingforbalance.com, Begging for Balance Dog Training and Rehabilitation here on Facebook. And this is Denise, your girl from South Carolina. No, Denise, Family K9 Training here in Orlando. Totally, you guys can still ask questions, even if you're just watching the replay. Stick them in the comments, and we'll catch you on the next one. I'm really sorry I haven't done lives in a couple weeks. I try to come on here. No excuses, but I've been so bombarded. I was 10 dogs deep there for a while. So, yeah, thanks so much, Katie. You're the boss. You are the
Okay.
boss.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Night. Bye.